The Trump and Kamala political theater heats up as the feuds begin to start in over and over again. Andrew Yang says he will speak at the Democratic National Convention. Trump admits that he may defund the post office because of mail-in voting, or at least we'll see what the political twist is behind that. And tragedy strikes in my state. Plus, we will thank everybody who chatted in the live chat this week. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We got a bunch of stuff to get to today, but a lot of it I think is going to be real quick hitters, so we may actually stay in the hour mark as we move along today here. But before we get started, as always, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We have got my shows, we've got the Daily Ignoramus, we also carry the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the Generational Gap. We carry the Freckles and Brit Show. We carry the R-Rated Conservative. So, come on over here and check us out over there. Pick up some of our swag and help us support great creators like the ones that are above mentioned. We want to see these people get paid. They do a lot of really, really good hard work for us, and some of them are really, really funny. So, we want to make sure that they get supported. All right, let's get the live chat up here and head on into the news. So, starting off with the stocks today, the Dow Jones closed 0.33% down, just about here. It stayed down for most of the day, which, given everything else that's coming out about the political theater right now, I don't blame any of it at all, because if I was an investor, if that's what I did professionally, I would be wary. I would be telling my customers, hey, let's start making sure that you're in the right place that you need to be right now, because we don't know what's going to happen here, and I just want to make sure that you keep enough money for your retirement. That's what I would be saying if I was an investor right now, but let's see what the actual investors have to say from this here from IBD. Dow Jones futures signal mixed stock market rally. Tesla eyes keys resistance. SEC accounting probe slams 3 China stocks from Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures signaled a mixed open early Friday along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. The coronavirus stock market rally had a mixed session Thursday after the NASDAQ and S&P 500 nearly set record highs. Tesla stock and Amazon stock hit resistance around all-time closing levels, and Apple closed on a market cap milestone. After the close, the Chinese streaming service iQIYI, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not, I don't know if I just butchered that or not, tumbled after disclosing an SEC accounting probe. The news also hit iQIYI stock market owner Baidu. GSX stock also sold off. Chinese online education specialist GSX Tech Edu has also been accused of accounting fraud. Yeah, that actually might be something that took it down there. I didn't realize that all of China was going through a nice big corruption fraud. So we'll see, or corruption case rather. So we'll see what happens there. Also, late Thursday, chip equipment giant Applied Materials reported better than expected earnings and guidance. AMAT stock rose nearly 4% overnight. That more than offset Applied Materials' 2.15% drop on Thursday, as many other semiconductor stocks struggled following a strong Wednesday. A big reason, Micron Technology issued a revenue warning intraday. MU stock, already a laggard, fell 4.8% on Thursday. Amazon stock, Apple, and Tesla are on the IBD leaderboard. Apple stock is on Swing Trader. Tesla extended Wednesday's stock split surge, but hit resistance just above its record closing high. Tesla stock rallied in overnight trade as 2 more bears threw in the towel, suggesting a possible above key level. Amazon stock reversed lower just shy of a record close and an actionable buying area. Apple did hit a new high and nearly reached $2 trillion in the market cap. From the futures, Dow Jones futures retreated 0.3% versus fair value off overnight lows. S&P 500 futures were at 0.1% below break even. NASDAQ 100 futures rose 0.3%, boosted by Tesla and AMAT. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. The Senate has gone into recess until Labor Day with no new stimulus deal that could weigh on the nascent economic recovery. China retail sales unexpectedly fell 1.1% versus in July versus a year earlier, raising doubts about the recovery in the world's number 2 economy. Industrial output rose less than expected. The Commerce Department will release U.S. retail sales at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So, just happened just a moment ago. But we will definitely be looking about it and most likely be hearing about it for Monday because they do like to put that up in all the news. So, that's what we see off of this here. And now I want to take a second in the stocks news and read a rare one here from Business Insider, rather, because it caught my attention yesterday and I wanted to look into it a bit more, and it was top story when I was looking into Dow Jones this morning to get prepared for the show. From Market Insider, legendary investor George Soros says the stock market is trapped in a Fed-fueled liquidity bubble. From Ben Wink. The Federal Reserve's monetary relief flooded markets with liquidity, but prices now rest on shaky foundations, according to the billionaire investor George Soros. Stocks' lofty valuations are underpinned by hopes for another round of fiscal stimulus and the expectation that President Donald Trump will announce a reliable coronavirus vaccine before the presidential election. Soros said in an interview with the Italian newspaper La Repubblica, published on Tuesday, the next spending bill would need to eclipse the $2.2 trillion CARES Act to meet investors' expectations, he added. Yes, because George Soros loves to see the government spend and spend and spend and spend. Concerns about the Fed's actions forming a market bubble hit the mark, Soros said, adding that the central bank had been more successful than Trump in buttressing markets. Yeah, I can see why this guy would be against Trump, but he's Soros, so what do you expect? While Soros no longer plays the market, he shared some tips for those navigating the volatile landscape. The interplay between the thought and reality is crucial, Soros said, as the market acts as a testing ground for balancing the two. Investors must assume fallibility in the market as participants' worldviews are always incomplete and distorted, he said. Reflexivity, or the assumption that the distorted views lead to inappropriate actions, is Soros' second key to success, he said. Soros says he sees the U.S. as better equipped than Europe to handle the coronavirus pandemic's economic fallout, despite Trump's leadership remaining very dangerous. The president is fighting for his survival and will do everything to stay in power, the investor said. Pot kettle! You Polish bastard. Still, Soros has said he expected Trump's time in office to be a transitory phenomenon, hopefully ending in November. Yeah. Anytime Soros is weighing in on some of this stuff, I get really, really nervous, especially when he is telling you the Fed is doing too much and making a bubble that might pop, because this guy loves the Fed. He loves the Fed. Absolutely 100% loves the Fed. So that's what we're seeing up out of this here. And yes, Soros is weighing in on everything else that we're doing right now. So keep that in mind as you go forward and look into what's going to happen come November. Let's get into the news, though. We will start today with the political arena, and the political gladiators are positioning themselves. We're going to start to see a lot of this coming up here. I mean, Trump can throw jabs at Sleepy Joe all the time, but he's locked in a basement. But now Kamala is out here, so now we will actually see what everybody thinks about everything going on here. So, from CNN Politics, Trump reverts to stereotypes as campaign fumbles to respond to Harris' pick, from Jeremy Diamond and Kevin Liptak. It took President Trump less than 2 minutes to reach for the word nasty as he reacted to California Senator Kamala Harris's historic selection as the first black Indian woman to join a major party ticket. A few minutes later, the president added the meanest and most horrible to his characterization of Harris and claimed that she was disrespectful in her attacks on Biden during the Democratic primary when they stood on the debate stage as equals. The insults played into racist and sexist stereotypes about black women and made clear that Trump does not intend to throw away a playbook filled with misogynistic attacks and dog whistle racism that have imbued his political career, even as the Biden campaign advances a barrier-breaking ticket. Evil Trump. Trump's limited political career has brought him up against only one previous Democratic rival, Hillary Clinton, whom he called a nasty woman. during the presidential debate, and since taking office, Trump hasn't moderated his tone, digging into a public persona that recoils from political correctness, while embracing the divisiveness he believes drills his supporters and provides them validation. Facing his first question on Harris during a White House news conference, evil Trump seemed unfamiliar with the line of attack on his campaign had prepared to use on her, and that he had tweeted himself only a few minutes earlier. Mwahaha! You had an ad out that said she was a phony and wanted to drill down, a reporter asked before Trump interrupted. That's what she said? Looking down, Trump tried to tick through a list of talking points etched before him in a black Sharpie. She's very big into raising taxes. She wants to slash our funds for our military at a level that nobody would ever believe. She's against fracking. But he quickly veered away from the staid talking points, shooting instead from the hip and calling her extraordinarily nasty. While the president claimed Harris was his number one draft pick, his attacks and then the apparent deficiency of the issue-focused talking points revealed the president and his team who would have preferred Biden pick just about any other vice presidential nominee. He's so afraid of her. It also put into sharp relief the challenge inherent for Trump in lining up against a black woman on the Democratic ticket at the same time as he tries to win black, moderate suburban women turned off by his divisive rhetoric. Is this a CNN article or is this a movie trailer? Because reading this, I could see either way going on this one. So yes, the chyrons are coming into play. The news is going to come and play where they're going to play. The Gladiators lined up, and we are going to see political theater like you have never seen before. The writers for Federal Apprentice just outdid themselves once again. And I can't wait for what the next season brings to us. I hope to God they don't cancel it. Alright, let's keep going. I said, let's keep going. There we go. From NBC News, Trump says Kamala Harris nasty and disrespectful to Joe Biden, surprised by VP pick. From Laura Egan and Kristen Welker. President Trump attacked Senator Kamala Harris on Tuesday, criticizing her for past comments she made about Joe Biden and calling her his number one pick, shortly after the California Democrat was announced as Biden's running mate. It was a little surprise that he picked her, Trump said during a press conference at the White House, adding that she did very, very poorly in the primaries. Trump said Harris was nasty and disrespectful to Biden during the primary, and his campaign set out a statement claiming Harris called Joe Biden a racist and asked for an apology she never received, adding that phony Kamala will abandon her own morals. Harris criticized Biden during a June 2019 primary debate for his record on busing, but stated at that time, "I do not believe you are a racist." Trump also focused on Harris's position on the Senate Judiciary Committee, telling reporters that she was nasty during Justice Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court hearing. "I won't forget that," Trump said. Trump tweeted out a video Tuesday attacking the Biden-Harris ticket, labeling the senator as phony. Voters rejected Harris. They smartly spotted a phony, but not Joe Biden. He's not that smart, a narrator in the video says. Slow Joe and phony Kamala, perfect together, wrong for America. Harris dropped out of the Democratic primary in December before the first nominating contests were held. So, that's what we're seeing up of this here, and they're going to go back and forth at each other. I can't wait to see what Kamala strikes back with this, because I can't see her taking this laying down. I mean, she takes a lot of things laying down, but I can't see her taking this laying down. So we'll see what happens up out of this here. Let's keep going. From ABC News, from Jack Arnholz, when Kamala Harris took on Brett Kavanaugh and Bill Barr. This ought to be interesting. I didn't read this one ahead of time, so this ought to be real interesting. In one of his first attacks on former Vice President Joe Biden's pick for Vice President, President Trump criticized Senator Kamala Harris as being extraordinarily nasty during the confirmation hearings for his then Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. "She was nasty to a level that was just a horrible thing. The way she treated Justice Kavanaugh, I won't forget that soon," he told reporters Tuesday afternoon. The forceful questioning by Harris, a former prosecutor, went viral on social media in the days after her exchange, and it may be how she's best known to many Americans, and it's a reason supporters say she will be a formidable opponent to both Trump and Vice President Mike Pence. No, she's a prosecutor, and she's badgering a witness, and she's going to do it again. I don't know how that wound up at the end, but we'll figure that out. Oh yeah, I know how that ended up at the end. Never mind, keep going here. The California Democrat who sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee made a splash when she asked Kavanaugh if he had discussed special counsel Robert Mueller's probe with any employees of law firm run by Trump's lawyer Mark Kasovich. Well, is there a person you're talking about? Kavanaugh asked Harris. I'm asking you a very direct question, yes or no. Fact check. It was a very indirect question, by the way. After a continued back and forth, Kavanaugh told the senator, I would like to know the person you're thinking of. I think you know, or I think you're thinking of someone and you don't want to tell us, Harris shot back. But an exchange that gained even greater attention came when asked Kavanaugh about reproductive rights. Can you think of any laws that give the government the power to make decisions about the male body? She asked. Kavanaugh froze for several seconds before responding. I'm happy to answer a more specific question. Male versus female, Harris replied. After a back and forth, Kavanaugh told Harris, I'm not thinking of any right now, Senator. The exchange received considerable play on late-night talk shows and on social media. Harris similarly garnered attention a year later during Attorney General William Barr's hearing on the findings of the Mueller report on Russian interference in the 2016 election, when Harris asked the president, or if the president rather, or anyone at the White House had ever asked or suggested that he open a Justice Department investigation into anyone, Barr acting uncertain at the first repeated part of her question, the president or anyone else? It seems you'd remember something like that, and you'd be able to tell us, Harris said pointedly, implying he was being evasive. Yeah, but I'm trying to grapple with the word suggest, Barr responded. They have not asked me to open an investigation. Perhaps they suggested, hinted, inferred, Harris pressed him. When Barr failed to finish his answer, she said, You don't know, sarcastically. Later, she asked Barr if he, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, or anyone in his office had questioned or reviewed the underlying evidence supporting the report's findings. Barr told Harris he had not. Harris responded, expressing disbelief and questioning Barr's decision to accept charging recommendations without reviewing underlying evidence when making a critical decision about the person who holds the highest office in the land and whether or not that person committed a crime. I think you made it clear, sir. You've not looked at the evidence, and we can move on, Harris said. So, yeah, we're going to see a lot of this coming up here, and to be completely honest, Harris has skeletons in her own closet, including her prosecutorial record, which has not escaped her yet at this point. I would start hiring Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard was the fact checker in all this here and was bringing everything forward. If I was the Trump campaign, I would offer her a job. I don't know if she'd take it or not, but I would offer her the job. But with that here, we are going to look at the two biggest crime busters in America running on a ticket together at a time when most of left-wing America is saying, all cops are bastards! Let's keep going. From Fox News, Biden VP pick Harris promoted group that put up bail for alleged violent criminals. So my cousin gave me an article from PJ Media, which is not green check verified, so I went down through here, I figured out what it was they were looking for, and I wanted to share this with you guys here because he brought it up to my attention. From Tyler Olson over at Fox News, Senator Kamala Harris, who Joe Biden picked on Tuesday to be his running mate, promoted the bail fund group that several Biden staffers donated to during the protests that followed George Floyd's death, which since has posted bail for multiple alleged violent criminals, including an alleged murderer and a previously convicted rapist. A Fox 9 report Monday revealed that Minnesota Freedom Fund in recent weeks has bailed out individuals, including Darnica Floyd, who was charged with second-degree murder after allegedly stabbing a friend to death, and Christopher Boswell, who is facing charges of sexual assault and kidnapping. The group put up $100,000 on behalf of Floyd and $350,000 on behalf of Boswell. MFF received about $35 million in the wake of George Floyd's death, which came after the Minneapolis Police Department officer knelt on his neck for almost 9 minutes, with at least some of it coming from a number of Biden staffers who donated to the group and then tweeted about it. And Harris, a former prosecutor who served as the Attorney General of California for 6 years, promoted the fund herself in a June 1st tweet, telling her followers that the group would help the protesters swept up in the clashes with police as unrest gripped Minneapolis. If you're able to chip in now to the MN Freedom Fund to help post bail for these protesting on the ground in Minnesota, Harris tweeted, but MFF, which received so much money amid the unrest that it asked people to start donating it to other groups instead, didn't just bail out protesters who have been victims of overzealous policing. Fox 9 also reported that Jaleel Stallings, who was accused of shooting at police during the May riots, was bailed out by MFF for $75,000. Donovan Boone, who was charged with invading the home of his ex-girlfriend and choking her, was bailed out for $3,000. Boone reportedly never showed up for his court date. No way! He didn't show up for his court date after they posted bail for him out of a left-wing advocacy group? No way! Fox 9 found the names of the accused violent criminals bailed out by MFF through a document in court records detailing an agreement that the people assisted by MFF will pay the bail money back to the group. Okay. And if they do pay that money back to the group, here's another big question. Where does that $35 million go? Follow the money, people. This is going back into somebody else's campaign. Either directly or indirectly, this is going somewhere through this. And I'm looking at Minnesota Freedom Fund the same way I'm looking at BLM right now and cycling all their money through Act Blue and laundering it that direction. There is fucky stuff going on up here, and there's going to be some bypasses going on to campaign finance, I suspect. And I'm kind of interested to see how it all shakes out. So, thank you, Jason, for bringing this up to my attention. Let's keep going here. I've got one here that actually I'm kind of glad I checked my Twitter notifications right before I went on because I found this article by doing so here. From Politico, a Never Biden movement vows not to vote for Joe. From David Siders and Holly Otterbein. On Tuesday night, Joe Biden's campaign was celebrating his latest primary night triumph. By Wednesday morning, #NeverBiden, #WriteandBernie, and #DemExit2020 hashtags began trending on Twitter. Oh, it's the Russians. That's the Russians that are doing it, and we're all united behind Biden because we have to get rid of evil Orange Man. That's bullshit from everything that I saw from every Red Rose account on Twitter yesterday. That is bullshit. There's no question it's been a banner for 2 weeks for Biden, but lurking in the background of his sudden ascension to all but presumptive nominee is evidence that at least some Bernie Sanders supporters might not migrate to him in November, weakening him in the general election. The significance of the problem became apparent in the same string of primaries that put Biden on the cusp of the nomination. In Michigan, a state critical of the Democrats' efforts to reclaim their general election footing in the Rust Belt, just 2 of 5 Sanders backers said they would vote Democrat in November regardless of who became the nominee. According to exit polls, 4 and 5 said they'd be dissatisfied with Biden as the Democratic standard bearer. Though it's unclear how widespread or adamant the #NeverBiden contingent is, will they really stay home when the alternative is another 4 years of President Trump? The misgivings of at least put the Biden campaign on notice that it has significant work to do to bring along Sanders' base. There is certainly anecdotal evidence for many progressives Biden represents everything they dislike about the mainstream Democratic politics. On The Young Turds, which draws millions of viewers, Crystal Ball, former MSNBC host, said she couldn't vote for Trump. But you can leave it blank, she said, referring to the November ballot. Hey, yep, that's what I'm doing. Ball said she is an undecided voter because if they always can say, look, you've got to vote for us no matter what, you've got no other choice, then they're always going to treat us like this. Paul Maslin, a top Democratic pollster who worked on the presidential campaigns of Jimmy Carter and Howard Dean, said in their overtures to Sanders supporters that Democrats have timed Trump and hopefully Bernie himself on our side. However, he said, it's a huge challenge. The November election is almost 8 months away, and unlike the 2016 Sanders supporters don't have the hard feelings for superdelegates, the party bigwigs who clinched the nomination for Hillary Clinton, to overcome. This year, Sanders' momentum was blunted by those, or not by those insiders, but by black voters in the South, following his victory in South Carolina by the broadening electorate. Polls show Biden is also viewed more favorably now than Hillary Clinton was in 2016. So, yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff going on here. This is an older article, but I did want to bring this out here because that's still going on. And the notification that I got that led me to this came because I commented on somebody's post yesterday. Because there is a contingent, and I don't know how big it is because social media does amplify things, but there is a contingent of people that will not vote for Biden no matter what, even though they claim to be Democrats. So we'll see this going on, playing out in the next couple months. Remember, this came from March 13th of 2020. So we'll see what happens there. Let's keep going. All right. From Kamala Harris is a Steve Mnuchin Democrat. Over on Twitter, I'm not excited that AOC is speaking. I'm not excited that Bernie is speaking. Why the fuck would anyone be excited about a fucking speech when Biden won't give us the policy that we're advocating for? Biden is not adopting UBI, for fuck's sake. Hashtag Yang is speaking. So, we have that interesting exchange here, which led me into this article over on CNN. Andrew Yang says he will speak at the Democratic Convention after expressing surprise at not being asked. From Veronica Strakwilersi over at CNN. Former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang said Thursday he was added to the Democratic National Convention's list of speakers after he expressed disappointment earlier this week at not being invited to address the event. And it's official, we have been added to the DNC convention speaker lineup, Yang wrote on Twitter, thanking his devoted followers, known as the Yang Gang. He confirmed in a separate tweet that his speech is slated for around 9 p.m. Eastern Time next Thursday, the fourth and final night of the DNC. On Tuesday, after the DNC's committee unveiled its speaker lineup, filled with leaders and the party's rising stars, Yang tweeted, "I've got to be honest, I was kind of expected to speak." Democratic Rep. Ro Khanna of California said on Twitter that it's absurd to exclude Yang from the list of speakers given the campaign that he ran. A fellow California Democrat, Ted Lieu, also responded to the news, saying that the lack of Asian American speakers at the DNC is a slap in the face. Dear at DNC, Asian Americans are the fastest increasing group in America, including in multiple swing states. The gross underrepresentation of Asian American speakers in the 4 days of the DNC convention is tone deaf and a slap in the face, Lieu tweeted. A businessman, Yang rose from obscurity to become a highly visible candidate, rallying in a coalition of liberal Democrats, libertarians, and some disaffected Republicans. He championed unique policy positions like universal basic income, and his campaign slogan was, "Make America think harder," with the acronym MATH. Yang ended his presidential campaign in February after a disappointing finish in the Iowa caucuses. Yeah. And right now they're actually trying to push UBI as we go along with this. They're trying to force it. And I don't think they're going to go for it. I don't see any universe right now where Biden actually makes it in. But yes, they're actually going to have Yang up there and speak. So, that'll be interesting. Let's keep going. And more election news here. Biden calls for mandate requiring all Americans to wear masks. He was joined at a briefing by his newly named running mate, Senator Kamala Harris of California, from Paul Steinhauser and Madeline Rivera over at Fox News. Former Vice President Joe Biden on Thursday called for a nationwide mask mandate to help fight the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. Every American should be wearing a mask, whether they're outside for the next 3 months or at a minimum, Biden told reporters in Wilmington, Delaware. The presumptive Democratic presidential nominee spoke after sitting down for a briefing on the coronavirus. With public health experts, he was joined at the briefing by his newly named running mate, Senator Kamala Harris. Dude, you know that she's going to be running the show. You know that he's not going to be in charge of anything off of this. You just know it. Let's institute a mask mandate nationwide, started immediately, and we'll save lives. The estimate says we'll save over 40,000 lives in the next 3 months if that's done, Biden emphasized. And the former vice president stressed wearing a mask increases exponentially to the prospect that if you're a carrier and you don't even know it, that you will not infect anybody if you cough, sneeze, sing, and shout. And pointing to the nation's death toll from the coronavirus, Biden said that a lot of people are dying. We're up over 160,000 people dead so far. Citation needed, please. Biden added that when I get occasionally confronted with a person in public without wearing a mask, I say, look, man, look, fat, this is America. Be a patriot. Protect your fellow citizens. Protect your fellow citizens. Step up. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Yeah, this repeating thing is definitely a sign of cognitive decline. I can't see a universe where nobody else sees this. That this guy's Alzheimer's ridden. I can't see a universe that this isn't true, but yet they want to put him at the top and try and hide the fact that they're trying to force Kamala Harris in, even though she got 2% of the vote at the beginning. All right, the current death toll in the U.S. stands just over 166,000 people. Citation needed, please, with more than 5.2 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 across the country. So, yes, if Biden gets elected, this whole optional thing with the states deciding is going away. And you're going to start seeing top-down laws come right from the top and go right down to the bottom. It's all going to be top-down laws. There's not going to be federalism if Biden gets elected. And he's made that point-blank clear, especially when he's got tough-on-crime Kamala sitting up at his side. So, watch for that as you go along. And that whole libertarian movement, that's probably going to be dead too. It'll quash that shit. We can't have dissenters. We can't have dissenters, you guys. It's going to be top-down, all or nothing federal government in 100 days once I take over the presidency from Joe Biden after he dies. Yeah. This world is fucked under a Biden-Harris ticket. All right, let's keep moving down the road here. I've got one from Politico for you guys. Trump Assails misrepresents Biden on mask mandate in partisan White House briefing. This comes to us courtesy of Matthew Choi. President Trump on Thursday launched a partisan attack on Joe Biden at the White House press briefing, inaccurately suggesting the presumptive Democratic nominee wanted a national mandate on mask wearing while assailing Biden as regressive, anti-scientific, and defeatist. Speaking to reporters on the lectern of the James S. Brady briefing room, Trump claimed Biden advocated for a national mask mandate to fight the virus, an act that Trump said ignored the different needs of individual states and trampled on governors' authority. Earlier Thursday, Biden and recently announced running mate Kamala Harris called on governors to issue mask mandates amid a national effort to curb the pandemic. Biden wants the President of the United States, with a mere stroke of a pen, to order 300 million American citizens to wear a mask for a minimum of 3 straight months, Trump said. He thinks it's good politics, I guess, no matter where they live, no matter what their surroundings. Biden did not say if he would impose a national mask mandate on Thursday. So far, 35 states and a number of municipalities require people to wear masks in public and where no social distancing is possible. Yes, unfortunately, my state is among that list. Trump himself urged Americans to wear masks during his briefing, saying it was the patriotic thing to do. Trump also said that Biden advocated for locking all Americans in their basements for months on end, further painting a picture of a candidate set on a presidential overreach. Well, no, he's just saying that because Biden wants to do that forever. He wants to shut down our economy, close our schools, and grind society to a halt. He wants it done by a federal decree, Trump said. This would lead to a crippling, long-lasting depression. No, they're not going to let the depression happen on their watch. Keep that in mind. They wanted depression, don't get me wrong, but they want it to happen on your watch. So they can come out and say, we fixed it! Look, we fixed it! Yay! So that's what we're seeing up out of this here. And yes, always objective Politico, Republicans pounce on mask mandate instead of actually looking what Biden said. All right, let's keep going off of this. From the New York Post, Trump says spike in crime high, taxes could help him win New York in 2020 election. From Stephen Nelson and Ebony Bowden over at the New York Post. President Trump said during an exclusive Oval Office interview on Thursday that his campaign is putting New York in play against Democrat Joe Biden in the 2020 election. Trump told the Post that he believes a spike in violent crime and high taxes can help him win his home state in an upset against Biden and running mate Kamala Harris. Over the last 6 months, what's happened is insane. It's insane. It's the worst, I tell you. So we're going to try very hard to win New York, and that'll be the first time. Is that the first since Reagan, I guess? Since Ronald Reagan, Trump said. I will bring down taxes. I'll make sure that New York City is a safe place. I mean, this is a cherished diamond of our country, and we can't let this happen in New York. The president said his campaign would spend money on efforts to win New York and that he plans to make campaign stops. He bashed New York Mayor Bill de Blasio's performance. We're going to invest in there. We're going to visit. I'm going to put it down, as you know, on my list. For instance, we think we're going to win New Mexico. We think we're going to win Minnesota. We think we have a shot perhaps at Virginia because they have a very, very strange governor. So, yeah, there's a couple things that are going along with that. And honestly, New York actually might be in play for this one. People fleeing the city because of the crime. People looking at what de Blasio did. I don't see it as a possibility, but it's a just might thing. It might actually happen. So, New Mexico is definitely in play at this point. Minnesota, maybe. It depends on if you can break the grip of Minneapolis off of this. I mean, there are enough people that are pissed off with Trump to begin with, but they've also watched Democrat policies tear their cities apart for the last 3 months. Democrat cops in Democrat cities, in Democrat states, that won't pull in the National Guard to stop it. There are a few things that are in play here. A few things you wouldn't expect either. All right, let's keep going off of this one here. I'm going to save that one for Monday too. Barr teases Friday development in Durham probe, says investigation won't be dictated by election. From Charles Kreitz over at Fox News. There will be a development on Friday in Connecticut, U.S. Attorney John Durham's investigation into the origins of the Russia investigation. Attorney General William Barr told Fox News' Sean Hannity in an exclusive interview on Thursday. Barr said the development would not be earth-shattering, but it would be an indication that the things are moving along at the proper pace, as dictated by the facts in this investigation. There are two different things going on, Sean, Barr said. As said, the American people need to know about what actually happened. We need to get the story of what happened in 2016 and 17 out. That'll be done. The second aspect of this is people cross the line. If people involved in that activity violated criminal law, they'll be charged. And John Durham is an independent man, highly experienced, and his investigation is pursuing a pace. There was some delay because of COVID, but I'm satisfied with the progress, and I've said there are going to be developments, significant developments before the election. But we're not doing this on election schedule, Barr added. We're aware of the election. We're not going to do anything inappropriate before the election, but we're not being dictated by this schedule. So I am definitely interested to see what happens with this, and he says he's going to just push it through. It's not election driven. Now, unfortunately, that's not what's going to be told. That's all you're going to hear is the fact that, well, this is just election interfering, and that's all they're going to do is interfere with the election. He's just doing the investigation to paint the Democrats in a bad light, and he wants to put people in jail to interfere with the election. Never mind the fact that if this was the other direction, they would be calling for the gallows for anybody else that was involved in something like this. That's been my frame for everything that I've done politically, especially in the duopoly, that I no longer participate in at this point. Take any news story that you look at, anyone at all, any news story anywhere that you look at, and reverse the parties and see if you feel the same way about it. If you don't, then you're really not seeking justice. All right, let's keep going here. From Business Insider, once again, archived because they're fascistic with their ad blocker software. Trump admits he's refusing to fund the U.S. Postal Service to sabotage mail-in voting, from Grace Panetta. President Trump told Fox Business's Maria Bartiromo on Thursday morning that he would block additional funding and election assistance for the U.S. Postal Service to sabotage mail-in voting. Throughout the pandemic, Trump has rejected giving emergency funds or grants to the cash-strapped USPS, which has seen a major revenue shortfall. He has also aggressively spread false and exaggerated claims that voting by mail is inherently fraudulent. In reality, rates of fraud are extremely low, and there's no evidence that expanding voting by mail hurts or benefits either political party. Guys, I want Business Insider's crystal ball because they already know what happened in the election. They already know what happened with vote by mail. And nothing that the president says is going to change their mind. So they can see the future, guys. Trump said in a press conference on Wednesday evening that he would not sign off on either the $25 billion in emergency funds for the USPS or the $3.5 billion grant to help it process election-related mail that Democrats have advocated in a federal COVID-19 relief bill. He said the same thing during the Fox Business interview on Thursday morning. They want $25 billion for the post office. Now, they need that money in order to have the post office work so it can take all these millions and millions of ballots, Trump said. Now, in the meantime, they aren't getting there. By the way, these are just 2 items. But if they don't get those 2 items, that means they can't have universal mail-in voting because they're not equipped. Trump has opposed measures to help the Postal Service. He said that he would refuse to sign the CARES Act stimulus package in March if it included a bailout for the agency, the Washington Post reported on April 11th. We told them clearly the president was not going to sign the bill if money for the Postal Service was in it. An administration official told the Post that definitely wasn't Trump, even though I read it in his voice. I don't know if we get used to the V-bomb, but the president was not going to sign it, and we told them that. The Post reported that while Congress initially intended to give the Postal Service a $13 billion grant, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin stepped in to quash the measure, telling lawmakers, you can have a loan or you can have nothing at all. So, there's a couple things at play here. First off, this is another thing of Republicans' pounce because, well, they're just using the post office to go after mail-in voting. Okay, here's reality. And this is going to be a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. The post office is currently running at a loss. They are hemorrhaging money right now. And all we do as taxpayers is go back through and keep funneling much more money through them. Any other business in the world, except for GM, because too big to fail, which they also had very, very big government interest in along with them. So I don't want to get started on that one by itself, but if any other business in the world was running that far in the red, that consistently, over and over and over again, they would be shut down. People would stop buying from them. They would have to jack their prices. They would have to figure out how to do this all privately. If any other business in the world was running in as red as the Postal Service is. Yes, it's a government agency. But you pay stamps for a reason. You pay shipping for a reason. Because they are expected to at least break even. I wouldn't expect that they pull a profit, because otherwise they're taking advantage of the American people, but they should at least attempt to break even, instead of taking $13 billion at a time. So that's what I see off of that there. But of course, they're going to try and tie this to mail-in voting because, well, they want your grandma to go out and vote during the pandemic and die because she voted during the pandemic. Yeah, this is all getting blatantly obvious at this point. Let's keep going. Oh yes, let's do something funny, because this was ridiculously stupid. Jamie Lee Curtis tweeted out on August 11th, I swear in broad daylight the driver of the red truck had a red cap on with white letters. Conspiracy? Outright attempt at stealing the election by denying access to the USPS? Let's not let it happen at Joe Biden. And this is the picture that Jamie Lee Curtis took while driving down the road because she thought that a red truck driven by a guy with a red hat, which was probably a uniform, because I know how tow companies work, was carrying an LUV from the post office, and he's stealing it so that it can't carry the mail. No, not a second thought to the fact that this could have been broken down. Those of you over on Instagram, you can't see the picture I have up on the screen, but yes, this was an actual tweet from Jamie Lee Curtis, and she got ratioed fucking hard from it. So, that's what we're seeing up off of this here. I just thought you guys would enjoy that. Alright. From NBC, UAE and Israel agreed to full normalization of relations. So this is something that didn't get a lot of attention yesterday. I saw it right away, and I wanted to look into this and see what more was going on with this, because once again, we have something moving in the Middle East. And now we need to see what's going on with this and hope to God that the next president doesn't pull us in and put us back into another war. But let's see what NBC has to say from Sephora Smith and Josh Lederman. Israel and the UAE on Thursday agreed to normalize ties in a major diplomatic breakthrough brokered by President Trump. As part of the agreement, Israel will suspend declaring sovereignty over areas outlined in the Trump administration's Mideast peace plan. The statement said, adding that the country would focus on expanding ties with other countries in the Arab and Muslim world. Huge breakthrough today, historic peace agreement between our two great friends, Israel and the UAE, Trump wrote on Twitter. The deal was finalized during a call between Trump, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. Trump said discussions between the two leaders have become sometimes tense. Israel currently has a peace deal with only two Arab countries, Egypt and Jordan, where it has fortified embassies. If Israel and the UAE go ahead and sign bilateral agreements, it would be the first time Israel has normalized relations with a Gulf state. Relations between Israel and Gulf states have been quietly warmed in recent years as they've been pushed together by their common enemy Iran, and by an ally in the Trump administration. The agreement could lead to other states, such as Saudi Arabia, to potentially follow suit. It's a historic day, a new dawn in Middle East relations, Netanyahu said at a press conference in Jerusalem on Thursday. He also insisted he would fulfill his pledge to annex parts of the West Bank. I'm not changing this, and I'm obliged to this annexation, he said, adding that it could not happen, U.S. support that Trump had asked Israel to wait. I think they missed a word in there. The deal solidifies Netanyahu's claim to have significantly advanced acceptance of Israel within the Arab world, giving him a new political talking point as he portrays himself as Israel's ultimate statement on the world stage. But it could trigger significant blowback domestically from supporters of Israeli settlements who have already been impatient with Netanyahu's failures to make good on his promise to extend Israeli sovereignty over West Bank lands. So, yeah, there's a couple things going on over in the Middle East, and yeah, that's my biggest concern, is that we get pulled into another war over there because we spent way too much time over there fighting wars that weren't our own. Alright, let's keep going. From Fox News. Iran, Turkey slam at UAE, claim Israel deal a dagger in the backs of Palestinians and Muslims. From Dom Colicchio. Iran and Turkey harshly criticized the UAE for its deal this week with Israel, framing it as an act of betrayal against the Palestinians and Muslims. The historic UAE-Israel, brokered by the U.S. and considered a major foreign policy triumph for President Trump, would make the UAE the third Arab country behind Egypt and Jordan to establish full diplomatic relations with Israel. The UAE would also be the first Gulf region state to have such an arrangement with Israel. The deal, which Trump announced Thursday, followed years of peace and improving relations between the UAE and Israel. It called for broader cooperation between the two nations on trade, travel, tourism, and other areas. But in a statement following the announcement, officials in both Iran and Turkey derided the accord as a step backwards for the Middle East. Iran's foreign ministry called the agreement a dagger that was unjustly struck by the UAE in the backs of the Palestinian people and all Muslims, according to the Associated Press. Turkish officials said the region's people will never forget and never forgive this hypocritical behavior by the UAE. The Turkish Foreign Ministry claimed the UAE had no right to negotiate the deal on behalf of the Palestinians. Trump described the deal as a huge breakthrough on Twitter message Thursday morning and predicted later the accord could spur other similar deals between other countries in the Middle East. So, peace in the Middle East, is it possible? Probably not. Is this going to spark a war? Maybe. Are we going to get involved in it? God, I hope not. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff moving over there, a bunch of pieces moving over the place, so I mean, that's something that's been called for my entire life and even beyond. Peace in the Middle East. Let's find peace in the Middle East. Even though there hasn't been peace over there for 4,000 years. So that's what we're seeing up off of this here. We'll be paying more attention to this if news arrives. All right, now I've got a little bit of bad news coming from my neck of the woods, from up in Madison. From WMTV NBC 15 out of Madison, Wisconsin. Family says 11-year-old girl shot in the head in Madison will be taken off life support. Now, I have not gone into this story because it's not being covered by a lot of the mainstreams, and I keep forgetting to put it into the stack. So we'll read a little bit more into this so you guys get a little bit more context off of this. But essentially, during a shootout between two cars on the east side of Madison, a little girl got shot in the head in the crossfire. So let's see what we've got going on here. From Madison, Wisconsin, family members of an 11-year-old Anissa Scott, who was shot in the head while in a car on Madison's east side Tuesday, said the little girl will be removed from life support on Thursday, 11:11 a.m. Family, friends, and members of the community gathered outside the American Family Children's Hospital on Wednesday to announce the sad update. Anissa's grandmother, Lauren Gomez, through tears, spoke out about Anissa's bright future as a student, athlete, and granddaughter. As a family decision, we want to let you all know that we thank you for your love, your support, outpouring of blessings, said Anissa's grandmother. She continued, "We need to end gang violence," she said. "We lost a precious child because of it." The family says they picked 11:11 a.m. on Thursday because she was injured on August 11th and she was 11 years old. The CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County, Michael Johnson, and the Dane County Circuit Court Judge and pastor of Christ the Solid Rock Baptist Church, Everett Michael, also attended. "This is a reminder to hold your babies tonight. Hold your children tight," said Mitchell. "No parent should have to have the anguish of this moment." Anissa's great-grandmother told NBC 15 on Tuesday that Anissa had pulled through her surgery and had been placed in a medically induced coma. Madison Police Joel Despain told NBC News Wednesday evening that Anissa is in a very, very critical condition and that she's clinging to life. The spokesperson added that the investigators are committed to solving this case as quickly as possible. Authorities have not identified the victim. As NBC News reported, Madison police believe suspects intended to shoot the driver of the vehicle Anissa was in. It's not clear what the relationship is between Anissa and the driver at this time. The shooting happened around 11:45 a.m. Tuesday as people in two vehicles started firing at each other as they headed down East Wash. Investigators believe Anissa was hit near the Lexington Avenue intersection. No suspects have been identified at this time. An organizer on Facebook has created a fundraiser for Anissa's family, writing that they are friends of the victim's family and they want to raise money to support them during this difficult time. MPD responded to another incident, a shots fired call involving two vehicles early Tuesday morning. Investigators are working to find out if the incidents are connected. Regarding the shooting, MPD officers have found multiple locations where exchanges occurred. They say all of them were likely connected to the shooting. In one case, bullets struck a home and another vehicle that was not involved in the shooting. MPD's Violent Crime Unit has taken over the investigation. Yeah, we need a moment for this one, guys, because this is definitely something that we're seeing out of these protests, and this is one of the few stories, and none of the mainstreams in the world covered this. I had to pull this from a local affiliate. I heard about it from a local affiliate. Nobody in the mainstream will cover this. It's just like that poor little boy that we talked about the other day. The same thing. Where somebody just walked up to him and point blank shot him in the back of the head. And nobody in the mainstream's covered any of this. And this little girl, you see the violence, you see the protests, and it's like the mainstream media wants to see more of these protests and violence. So, we need to bring an end to this. We need to find a way to put an end to all of this. Because little kids that are innocent are losing their lives over it. And it needs to stop. So that's what we saw up out of this here. I'm going to keep us going down off of this. A little bit of COVID news sitting up here for us. In and out is site of COVID-19 outbreak in Oregon from James Legate over at Fox News. Oregon health officials identified an In-N-Out Burger location as one of the dozens of workplaces to experience COVID-19 outbreaks over the last month, after 5 cases were linked to the restaurant. Health officials began investigating the cases linking to the Kaiser, Oregon restaurant on July 18th, with the most recent cases connected to the restaurant identified on July 29th, according to the Oregon Health Authority. But that's just one of many workplaces to experience outbreaks of at least 5 cases, although the authority found 80 workplaces in the state with active outbreaks and dozens more with resolved outbreaks. The various businesses include several other fast food eateries, retail stores, manufacturers, a U.S. Postal Service facility, and a Portland strip club. Yeah, they're going to try and push this here to try and push you back in and make sure that you are afraid. Make sure you're afraid and you never come out of your house again. Just be afraid. Don't go anywhere, because you might catch it. There might be another outbreak. 8 deaths were associated with the workplace outbreaks, but officials didn't specify which workplaces in order to protect patient privacy. While still considered active, officials have said none of the outbreaks will pose a risk to the public. Workers of a business and a workplace outbreak should never be subjected to discrimination or excluded from patronizing other businesses. So, you're in a business where you know there's an outbreak, where you know you might have it and you haven't been tested for it. But yeah, you should be able to go out and spend your time out. This is the exact argument for self-quarantine. Not government-mandated quarantine, but self-quarantine. Make smarter decisions. If you think you've been exposed to this, make smarter decisions. Alright. That's what we see off of this here. Alright, let's keep going. This is another sad one here for me, especially given things that I've experienced in my past as well. And I've seen what happens, how depressed a person can get on a very, very stalled and lagging economy. From the Daily Wire, more than a quarter aged 18 to 24 have seriously considered suicide in the past 30 days, says CDC from John Brown. More than 25% of young Americans aged 18 to 24 have seriously considered killing themselves over the last month, according to the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, released on Thursday by the CDC. The coronavirus disease pandemic has been associated with mental health challenges related to the morbidity and mortality caused by the disease and to mitigation activities, including the impact of physical distancing and stay-at-home orders, the report began. Symptoms of anxiety disorder and depressive disorder increased considerably in the U.S. during April to June of 2020, compared with the same period in 2019. The World Health Organization also recently reported skyrocketing levels of mental anguish worldwide since the advent of COVID-19. Substance abuse has increased, the WHO said, with statistics from Canada reporting that 20% of 15 to 49-year-olds have increased their alcohol consumption during the pandemic. The CDC report later noted elevated levels of adverse mental health conditions, substance use, and suicide ideation were reported by adults in the U.S. in June 2020. The prevalence of symptoms of anxiety disorder was approximately 3 times reported in the second quarter of 2019, 25.5% versus 8.1%. And prevalence of depressive disorder was approximately 4 times that reported in the second quarter of 2019, 24.3% versus 6.5%. The report went on to advise markedly elevated prevalences of reported adverse mental and behavioral health conditions associated with COVID-19 pandemic highlight the broad impact of the pandemic and the need to prevent and treat those conditions. So, people are being locked in their homes. They're not allowed to go see their friends. They're not allowed to go out and socialize. They're not allowed to go to a bar and drink, so they drink at home. Where it doesn't cost them near as much. There's much, much less of a stopgap to it. There's nobody around to help stop them. And of course, they can't go to work, many of them. They can't go outside and take a walk, or they can, but they can't go for a walk. They can't go on dates. If they're single, it's ill-advised for them to go out and get a piece of ass. Yes, you can see why people are depressed at this point. This has gone far enough, honestly. I'm sorry to say this, but this has definitely gone to a point where we need to start addressing if the risks outweigh the costs and if the benefit actually outweighs the risks. All right, we're going to say goodbye to Instagram here. So thank you guys over there for checking us out. Check out the main channel up in the description to finish out the rest of the show and hear your name get read on the air, because I will thank you at the end of the show. So thank you guys. Take care. Yeah, this is the point where we do need to start wondering if it was really worth shutting down this economy. So that's what we're seeing up off of this here. Let's keep going. I've got 2 more tweets and 2 more articles. So now is the time to go and gather your friends in here so we get your names up in the chat, because I will read everybody's names at the end of the chat, including the names of everybody who chatted throughout the week. I've got you guys down here too. So we will give thanks to everybody at the end of these 4 next tabs. All right, from Fox 11 out of Los Angeles. School district says no pajamas for online classes. This goes right along with what we read yesterday about wear a mask when you're in home because the DNR says so here in Wisconsin. But let's see what Fox 11 has to say. This is out of Springfield, Illinois. The school district in Illinois' capital city has updated school dress code policy for remote learning, saying students can't wear pajama pants, slippers, or hats while on camera when classes start this month. Springfield public school officials say they hope students approach online classes the same way they would attending classes in person, and that means following a dress code that also bars hoods, sunglasses, and bandanas, among other things. The district said students should also be sitting up out of bed, preferably at a desk or table, during remote learning, according to its school manual. The expectation is that the dress code is upheld. Jason Wind, director of school support, recently told school board members, "We don't need students in pajamas and all those other things while on their Zoom conferences." All right, I'm going to let you guys in on just a little secret. For the last probably 6 months of Ed's World, when I started gaining weight and I couldn't sit comfortably in jeans anymore, I was wearing pajama shorts when I did Ed's World. I'm going to let you guys in on another secret. I'm wearing pajama shorts right now, because you can only see from here up. And just like I said on the mask mandate for Zoom calls for the DNR here in Wisconsin, you are not going to tell me what I can and cannot wear in my own home. As long as you're not seeing nips, it's none of your goddamn business what I wear in my home. And yes, I'm nice enough to, I do wear pants for the Red Net show. Well, this is because I've lost 40 pounds and I cannot sit comfortably in them again. But no, you're not going to tell me what I can and cannot do, wear, or otherwise in my own home. And this whole distance learning thing, it's the same thing. That kid got busted for having a BB gun in the background of his Zoom call during school hours, in his own fucking home, on the wall. A BB gun. So no, you are not going to tell me what I can and cannot do in my own home, and you're not going to tell my kids, even though I don't have any right now, what they can and cannot do in their own home. Be glad that he's showing up, because a lot of these kids are probably just watching Minecraft videos in another tab and just passively being there for the Zoom instruction. They're probably learning a lot more than that. I bet you some of them do have contemporary on the background. They're probably learning a lot more from that too. So, no. You shall not tell me what to do in my own home, state agency. If you can't see it, it's not your business. All right. I've got one here from Ian Miles Chung. California is turning into a libertarian paradise as they're decriminalizing sex between adults and 14-year-olds. All libertarians just want pedophilia. That's all that they want. Oh. And I pulled the article here so we can read a little bit what's out of this. But yeah, this guy, I can't believe he didn't get ratioed for this, but my God, what an ass. All right, let's see what the Federalist actually has to say here. Please note, this is not a green check verified website, but I still wanted to make sure that we read this one here. No, California shouldn't decriminalize adult sex with 14-year-olds. LGBT activists have pushed a reasonable notion of equality to its limits with obscene perversions, State Senator Scott Wiener of San Francisco, the same lawmaker who co-sponsored a bill in 2017 to remove the felony penalty for knowingly exposing another person to HIV, has introduced a bill, Senate Bill 145, to give judges more flexibility in sentencing gay men who abuse minors. Under current law, which Wiener, who is gay, describes as horrific homophobia, a straight 24-year-old male who has sex with a 15-year-old girl can avoid being put on the sex offender list if the judge feels the situation does not deserve it, but a gay man in the same scenario with a similar aged boy would not be given the same option. Wiener's arguments is one of the evolving social standards. In 2015, the California Supreme Court upheld the long-standing separation of vaginal sex from other forms of sex based on the misguided idea that if pregnancy occurred, placing the father on the sex offender list could ruin his chances of providing for his family. The extreme of the scenario would be an 18-year-old man with a 17-year-old girlfriend. Wiener's bill, however, is not so straightforward. He argues that all forms of sex should be treated equally under the law. Moreover, while there is room for flexibility in a ruling in which a boy turns 18 while his girlfriend is still 17 and her father presses charges, the bill defines the age minimum at 14, recognizing that minors cannot legally consent to sex. Wiener argues that if a minor aged 14 to 17 voluntarily has sex with an adult who is less than 10 years older, the judge should decide based on the individual facts of the case whether the adult should be placed on the sex offender registry. Data provided by Wiener's office states at least 2,400 people on California's sex offender registry, potentially hundreds more, have been convicted of non-vaginal sex with a minor, 14 or older. From what I understand too, California is the most restrictive as far as it goes for age requirements as well. I believe that you do have to, age of consent is 18 in California. Now, it does vary across the other states. I don't think it ever goes as low as 14. I think that would be revolutionary as far as this goes. But, I mean, that's going to be an individual thing off to the state. But the fact of the matter is we're also looking at the fact that we're going directly from the most stringent law in the country for age of consent to the most lenient. Directly, nothing in between. They're not just going down year by year by year. They're going directly from the most stringent to the most lenient. And, I mean, if that goes on to that, I mean, where does the next step go if they're going to go that boldly and that far, that quick? So I don't know about that. I don't know about any of this here. This is really weird. But this is not a libertarian position either. You cannot consent, therefore you are violating the NAP. And we do take special precautions to children. And that's where I worry about this, is if this continues to go even further down the list. Because there is, as was pointed out in the chat just a moment ago, there is a push to accept pedophilia, which goes even further beyond the 14-year-old age limit. So, this is something to watch. But that's what we'll see up here out of the Federalist. Alright, and the last one that I have here is another tweet. A little bit more inspiring off of this that comes with a little bit of video. But we'll read the tweet first, and I will turn your ears on. There's not a lot of audio that goes along with this, but I'll turn your ears on for this. And then we will read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat. So, from Pismo tweets, Officer Eric Uria of Lodi, California Police Department sprung into action to save a man's life after his wheelchair became stuck on train tracks. Folks, you won't see this on fake news, CNN or MSNBC. Now, I am against over-policing, on principle, but police go out there. They do more than just bust people for simple possession. They do go out and put themselves in the line of duty to go and protect people like this. If you really want to change policing, change the laws, because we have way too many laws at this point. That's the best place to start, is to change the laws. We will discuss over-policing later, but get some of these laws, these victimless crime laws, out of the way, and we'll probably see a major shift in policing. Now, I have no crystal ball, unlike the people that are advocating for mail-in voting. So I can't tell you for sure if I'm correct on that, but just looking at the number of laws that people can get busted for, I mean, you can get arrested 3 times in a day for committing a felony, because the average person commits 3 felonies a day and doesn't even know it. So start with the laws. But this is a brave police officer that points back to the fact that, yes, some police officers are out there to protect and serve. Let's see what this video has to show. Your ears are on? Good.
101. I'll be out with the mail sack on the tracks trying to get him out. Go on, can you get up? Get up.
In the nick of time, saved the guy as the train was coming. This is the kind of stuff you only see in movies, but it actually happened off of this. So, good on Erica Uria for coming and yanking this guy to safety. Absolutely. All right, and now it is Friday, so it's time to give thanks to everybody else who came out and supported me throughout the week here, including on my impromptu ad talk. So thank you guys in advance. I didn't write the names down for those guys out there, but thank you everybody who came and chatted in the live stream I did Tuesday night on the impromptu ad talk when we found out that Kamala was going to be the nominee. Let's see, what do we have today? We've got ourselves a Miami 1984 showing up saying morning. We got a Dab of Cannabis 420. Thanks for coming, stopping by here. We caught ourselves a Wild Silly Blue with his howdy sticker. Thanks to you guys over on DLive. I was suppressed on DLive for a little while, so I don't know if you guys were getting notifications or not. And by the way, noticing through the week as well, is anybody close to Oklahoma and can go check on Ron Helton? Because we haven't seen him for a little while. And I'm a little bit worried. He did interact with one of my tweets last night, so I know he's alive. But yeah, we haven't seen him for a little while. Who else do we have here? Sully, Dava. We got a Seawall in a medium tank over here. That's awesome. Thanks, Seawall. And then we've got Bill Gates at the very end on DLive over here as well. That's a new name over in here. I wonder if that's the Bill Gates. Probably not, but I wonder if that is. So thank you everybody who came in and chatted today. Let's go back through the rest of the week. Working backward, we have on Thursday. Thursday was a busy day, which is good. I like it when we have a busy day here. We had a Sully Blue. We had Dab of Cannabis. We had Miami 1984. The RRC showed up here, and I think he dropped off some lemons. I haven't gone back and looked to see if that's the case or not, but he did show up in the chat. We had Seawall. We had I think it's S7ARRY, which I think is standing for Starry Knight, who decided to make fun of me trying to speak throughout this, but still, I can take the heat, so you're absolutely, definitely welcome to come in and throw the heat at me. And that was over on Twitch. And then we had a Jazz Lizard over there. Wednesday, we had a little bit of a slow start to the week here. So Wednesday, we had a Sully Blue, Miami 1984. Seawall 728 showed up and kept the facts going here. And then we had a Hassan Boza Slam over on DLive as well. So thanks that guy for popping in here and showing up. Tuesday, we had Thick Zeke. We had Nur Islam started out the show Tuesday rather. Wow, I can talk. We had Sully Blue, who pointed out to Nur Islam that I don't interact with the chat during the show, so thank you for that. Thanks everybody who comes in here and welcomes the people that I don't interact with during the chat, because that does help them come along and that does bring in some more followers. And yes, I will read your chats on the Red Ned Show. Actually, we'll have usually Elaine will do that for you on the Red Ned Show. And I dedicate an entire hour to you guys every other week over on all the platforms as well in what we call Ed Talk. So that's every other Saturday. So if you want to get your questions in for me directly, that's the time to do it. And that's your time, so you can take the conversation anywhere else that you want to go. We also had Dab of Cannabis on Tuesday. And on Monday, the slowest day that we had this week, we had Sully Blue and we had Riding with Biden 2020. And before we go too far into this, I also want to take a second here and say thank you to Megan Rotletsky, Fritzcast, and Tim Timmers over on Instagram for coming in and checking out as well. So that is everybody for the week here.
If you want to catch us up back live, I'm catching back up on the audio platform. I am up through Tuesday right now on that, so I'll finish out the rest of it probably tonight before I go to bed. So we'll get all the audio platforms up for the week if you can't catch us live, or you can catch us back on demand on YouTube as soon as it processes, and over on BitChute.com, which draws its stuff from YouTube. So you can go over there and check us out over there as well. I'd love to have you, love to see you on demand, love to see the views, and thank you for supporting the show. You can also find our archives over on freedomscoop.com. You can go check us out. I cited that up in the morning. Or earlier in the morning. We're still in the morning over here, so I cited them earlier on. So go and check us out over there. Help us support great creators. And we will be back here. I'm not doing an Ed Talk this weekend. I've got some family stuff to take care of and some career stuff to take care of. So we're not doing that this weekend. But we will be back here on Monday for more contemporary, or Monday night for the Red and Ed show. So come on over and check us out over there. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.